If you're going back to work soon and you want to make sure that your supply stays up, this video is for you. In this video, we are going to be discussing what the best breast pumps are for working moms that I think will help keep your supply up and keep you sane while you're pumping away from your baby. At the end of the day, there are a lot of pumps out there and most of them are not going to keep your supply where you want it to be. Before we get started though, if this is hitting home, be sure to grab my pump comparison guide where I compare some of the top pumps that are out there to help you make the best decision for your baby and your body. Around 80% of new moms are going to be returning to work after their maternity leave. And while not all of these moms are going to choose to pump while they're away from work, many moms do want to be able to provide breast milk throughout that first year. This obviously adds a layer of complexity as you try to keep your milk supply up and provide enough milk while still doing your job. Unfortunately, many moms do see a drop in supply when they go back to work, but it's often not for the reasons you think. While you might think stress is the biggest reason behind it, the two biggest things I see causing a drop in milk supply when a new mom goes back to work are having the wrong pump, often with the wrong flange size, as well as having the wrong pumping schedule, because there are a lot of pumping schedules you'll see online out there that are not meant for your body, or sometimes your work schedule just doesn't allow for it. So what does the wrong pump mean? As I've already mentioned, there are so many different pumps out there, and some are better for different situations. For instance, if you have a pump that is just like a single-sided pump, that may be less effective milk-wise and less time efficient as well. Some moms have really good success with manual pumps, but that can be difficult to be using while you're at work. Wearable pumps are also very popular for working moms. Unfortunately, very frequently we do see a drop in supply when relying on these, especially for every single pumping session. And even if you do have a double electric pump, they are not all created equally. There are very few that I actually would recommend for a working mom, and it's important to make sure that you do your research on those before you go back to work. Flipping over to what the wrong schedule means, everybody has a different storage capacity in their breasts. Some moms are able to go longer at work without pumping, while other moms need to pump more frequently to get the amount of milk that their baby needs. It may also include not matching your baby's feeding at work. It can be really tricky to manage that new feeding schedule, especially if you are having your child go to a daycare where they are very specific about the feeding times and perhaps are giving more milk than you are actually able to make. And sometimes when you're at work, you don't have as much control over your schedule. While there are laws in place to help protect you and allow you to pump as frequently as you need, this doesn't always play out in practice for some moms. And then there are some jobs such as being a nurse or being a teacher where there just isn't enough flexibility to get your pumps in. For the remainder of this video, I'm going to be talking about the best breast pumps, in my opinion, from what I have seen with the moms that I work with So for the remainder of this video, I'm going to be talking about the best breast pumps for working moms. And this is based on my experience working with countless working moms and what has worked well for them. And if that sounds, well, I can't go into every single pump out there. If you are interested in learning about more options, you can grab my free pump comparison guide in the description for the video below. First, let's talk about what to look for when you are trying to choose the best breast pump for going back to work. Probably don't turn to Instagram and see what your favorite influencer is using. Chances are, if they are shilling out a breast pump all the time, they might not even actually be working in a traditional work environment. Instead, talk to actual moms who have returned to work and kept their milk supply up to see what they have found to be beneficial. Of course, I'm going to be sharing some of my experience in this video, but it is helpful to do other research to make sure you're getting the best option for your body. I always recommend having a solid traditional double electric breast pump. This is one that can either be portable or that is plugged into the wall. It is going to be a double one where you can pump at the same time on both sides, and it is going to have more power than some of the other breast pumps out there. If you've watched my other videos, it will probably come as no surprise that the Spectra tops my list. This is the Spectra S1, which is my personal favorite. This is portable and rechargeable, though it's kind of hard to carry it around because it is heavy. And it is going to give you the most consistent results across the board. Of course, I do have moms that don't love this pump and have switched to another pump at one point or another, but this is a really good option because I just find that it lasts a long time. It should last you at least through that first year, probably beyond, and most moms do see good milk output with it. There's also the S2, which is pink, but it is not portable unless you buy like a rechargeable battery that you plug into it, which some moms choose to do that. There's also the Spectra Gold, which is quite a bit more expensive, but it does let you change the pump settings per side, which a lot of moms do like that. Don't get this confused with their gold portable pump because that one is not great and I don't recommend it. If you are somebody that is working a desk job, you're working at a computer all day, you're able to pump without having to get up and move around, I would say 9 times out of 10, the Spectra is going to be the best option for you. I have had some moms have success with both the Motif Luna and the Unimom Opera. And so if these are on your insurance list, you can definitely look into them. But at the end of the day, I still recommend the Spectra for most moms. With that said, I know that not everyone has a desk job and that they can't always just sit there plugged into the wall or with a pump that is just too heavy to carry around. There are lots of different jobs out there, and so it's important to have options. My next 2 pumps that I love are the Pumpables Genie Advanced and the Baby Buddha 2.0. These are ones that are very popular on social media, especially on Instagram with influencers, but I do think that they are really great pumps overall. I find that, especially if your milk supply has already been established, you often can rely on these pumps to help maintain your milk supply while you're at work. I used to always recommend the Baby Buddha as my top portable pump. However, as I've worked with more and more moms, I have found that the Pumpables Genie Advanced has slightly edged that one out. I find especially if you respond well to the Spectra, you will probably respond well to the Pumpables. This one is really easy to use and a lot of moms have good success with it. I did a deep dive into a lot of research on people's reviews, talked to a lot of different moms, and I have found very few moms who have not liked this pump. With that said, Baby Buddha 2.0 is good for most moms. There are some that don't love it. The older version had a very long pole during one of the modes, and it was just painful for a lot of moms. They have changed that and updated the design, so it does still have that mode for the moms that want it, but there is a soft stimulation mode that is a little bit more gentle. However, I have had more moms saying that they don't respond to this one as well, and so that's why it's like my number 2 portable pump. These really do work well though, and they pack a lot of punch for being as small as they are. And it's great for portability. You can pair these with things like wearable cups. Of course, wearable cups are going to probably decrease the efficiency of your pump a little bit, but at the same time, I find that when you pair wearable cups with a better pump like this, rather than just using a wearable pump, you're gonna have more success overall. I do have coupon codes for these. You can check them out in the link below, but these are often also covered by insurance. And if you haven't gotten your insurance covered pump yet, I have a link to a company to help you get your breast pump through your insurance. And finally, let's talk a little bit about wearable pumps. For a working mom, this might seem like heaven sent and the perfect solution for working. Usually they are very discreet. You can put them in your bra, you can walk around, and they're gonna be a lot easier to use while you're working. With that said, wearable pumps are not always what they're cracked up to be. While some moms are able to use them, and you've probably seen these moms, again, all over social media, saying how wonderful they are and their milk supply's never been higher, this is not the case for most moms that I've worked with. I often will see moms see a small increase in milk supply when they start using a wearable pump, and then see a decrease afterwards because they don't use it for as long as they need to, or it's just not as efficient. There's a lot of reasons for this. Sometimes the motors aren't as powerful. You have to use inserts, which I do find inserts tend to decrease the amount of milk that moms are making. And sometimes you think that you don't need to wear them as long as you. With that said, again, there's a time and place for these. And usually I'll say, if you're gonna use a wearable pump, try and limit it to 1 to 2 times a day, and then use another pump if you can. But at the end of the day, it's better to pump than not pump. And so if you're not gonna be able to pump without a wearable pump, this is gonna be a good option. The situations where I find that it's best to use a wearable pump are when you're pumping on the way to work, because that is going to be a very efficient option, especially if you have a longer commute time. It can also be great if you are in meetings a lot, or if you need something that's just a little bit more discreet. If you're walking around, I know a lot of nurses really love wearable breast pumps. So getting all of that out of the way, there are a lot of wearable pumps out there and most of them are junk. I would not just go on Amazon and find just a random one. I would get one that has a good record and that you see actual lactation consultants recommending. My top choice at this point is the Eufy S1 Pro. This is a great wearable pump. It's created by the company Eufy, which they specialize in vacuum cleaners, which I think is a big reason why theirs is a lot more powerful and effective than other breast pumps out there. With the moms I've worked with, they found this to be more efficient, and some have actually seen their milk supply increase and stay that way with this pump. I love the different modes with it. I have tested it with lots of different moms and gotten a lot of feedback on it. And I really love this one. It does have a portable charging case, which is going to cost $100 more, but most people I find don't really need that. It has pretty good battery life overall. It also has a great app, which I find is very easy to use. Another one that people like that is probably a little bit less expensive is the Mom Cozy M5. This one has been out for quite a while, and while there are some people that don't love it, some will say that they think the tunnel is a little too short in the flange. I have mostly seen pretty good results with this one. Mom Cozy has tons of wearable pumps out there, and while I won't say they are the best of the best, they are pretty good quality, they have good customer service, and they are affordable. Both of these you might be able to get through your insurance. However, I would not recommend getting a wearable pump with your insurance credit unless you already have another pump like the Spectra from like another baby, or you were able to get that in some other way, or it would be less expensive to buy a Spectra and get one of these with your insurance money. So now that I've shared some of my favorite breast pumps that are out there for working moms, let's talk a little bit about making pumping a little bit better while you are working, because it can be stressful. And while I don't find stress to be the number one reason for a drop in supply at work, it certainly can impact it. When you go back to work, I generally recommend that you start with a schedule very similar to your baby's feeding schedule at home, and to start with more frequent pumping than less. Sometimes that will be every 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours. It may depend on your schedule. In general, I find it's better to start with a little more pumping and then titrate down rather than starting with a larger gap than you're used to. This is going to prevent you from getting clogged ducts, engorgement, and of course, a drop in milk supply. If your baby has a pretty regular feeding schedule at home, you can try and match that as well. Just make sure that you are getting enough milk out during each pumping session. Sometimes moms will find that if they go a little bit longer, they're still able to get about the same amount of milk. You just always want to monitor this and adjust if you start to see a drop that is a little bit more than you feel comfortable with. Creating a pump-friendly workspace isn't always easy, but if you do have control over that, I would make sure that you have a place that is relaxing and not high stress. I know some moms aren't able to stop working in order to pump, but if you're able to, that will make your pumping session so much more efficient. If you are able to relax, take a few minutes to pump, and not constantly be focusing on work. I know some moms say that they feel more stressed stopping to pump and they would rather pump through it. So again, always adapt for your situation. If you work outside the home, you can talk to your place of work about creating a nice pumping station, something that has like a fridge to put your milk in, that has snacks, that has a nice comfortable chair to make pumping a more enjoyable experience for you. I would recommend bringing multiple pump parts and flanges. You can implement the fridge hack if you've heard of that and you feel comfortable with it. Pooling milk is really helpful as well for some moms. And I love using something like the Ceres Chill, which allows you to keep your milk all in one place throughout the day. You don't want to be spending all of your extra break time washing extra parts. So sometimes just having a couple extra flanges and extra bottles are going to make your life a lot easier. Pump wipes can be helpful as well, and the sterilizing bags can be another good option. I mentioned these earlier, but you can use wearable cups with a pump like the Spectra or the Baby Buddha or the Pumpables. There is going to be some loss of suction and efficiency with these, but I do find that they can be more effective than a wearable pump, and it can make things feel just a little bit more doable. I do have a video where I compare the different options out there, so I will drop that link below and you can check that out to see which wearable cups might be good for you. There can be a lot of emotions that come with going back to work, and it can be difficult if you feel like pumping is not going to be a great experience. Working with a lactation consultant beforehand to come up with a plan to ensure that you feel supported and ready to go back to work can make a huge difference. And my team works worldwide if you need any help. You can book a consult at the link below. Otherwise, I hope that this video was helpful in helping you prepare to go back to work and pick a pump that is going to be best for your situation. Be sure to leave any comments if you have any questions. And if you are interested in learning more ways about making pumping a part of your life that is manageable, be sure to check out my guide, The Pumping Playbook. It is created from my experience working with countless pumping moms, what they've told me they wish they knew and they wish that they had been told before they started pumping. It's from the first time you start pumping to when you start to wean, and so it has everything you need to have a successful pumping journey. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.